Welcome, friends, to a quiet corner of history. Settle in, close your eyes, and let the soft whispers of the past carry you away. I'm your storyteller, and tonight, under the gentle glow of a distant star, we step into the heart of ancient Rome, a city of marble, ambition, and the thunderous roar of the Colosseum. Picture it now. The year is 80 CE, and the air is thick with the scent of dust, olive oil, and anticipation. The Colosseum, freshly built, looms like a giant, its arches casting long shadows over a restless crowd. This is a place where dreams and nightmares collide, where men and women called gladiators become legends or fade into the sand. Let's walk together into their world, step by careful step, and uncover the unbelievable secrets of these warriors. The Colosseum was more than stone and mortar. It was the beating heart of Rome's spectacle. Imagine standing at its edge, your sandals crunching on the gravel paths that wind through the city. You hear the hum of 50,000 voices, merchants haggling, children laughing, senators whispering in their togas. The morning sun burns bright, warming the limestone walls, and a faint breeze carries the Thames of roasted chestnuts from nearby stalls. As you approach the amphitheater, its scale steals your breath. 4 stories high, with banners flapping in the wind, it's a monument to Rome's power, built to house its wildest dreams. The crowd presses forward, a sea of linen tunics and eager faces, all hungry for the day's entertainment. You slip through an arched entrance, your shoulder brushing against a stranger's, and find a seat among the masses. Below, the arena floor stretches wide, its sand raked smooth, ready to drink the stories of the day. The Romans called these spectacles muneragives to the people. They were celebrations of power, funded by emperors or wealthy patrons to win favor. But for those who fought, they were something else entirely, a crucible of survival, glory, or death. The Colosseum could hold chariot races, beast hunts, or mock naval battles, but nothing gripped the crowd like the gladiators. These warriors, drawn from the edges of society, were both revered and pitied. Some were slaves, torn from distant lands, others were prisoners of war, their chains forged in defeat. A few were free men, chasing fame or fortune. Each stepped into the arena knowing the crowd's cheers could turn to gears in an instant. Yet for a fleeting moment, they held Rome in their hands. Let's pause here, in the shade of the Colosseum's arches, and imagine the city around it. Rome in 80 CE was a sprawl of contradictions. Temples to Jupiter and Venus gleamed with white marble, their altars thick with incense. Narrow streets twisted past bakeries, where the scent of fresh bread mingled with the stink of open sewers. Aqueducts carried water from distant hills, feeding fountains that sparkled in the sun, while insular cramped apartment blocks housed the poor and teetering stacks of brick. The Tiber River flowed lazily nearby, its banks crowded with traders, unloading amphorae of wine and oil. This was a city of 1 million souls, the largest in the world, pulsing with life and ambition. Yet beneath its grandeur lay a hunger for distraction, a need to escape the grind of daily life. The Colosseum fed that hunger, offering a stage where Rome could watch its own story unfold. The crowd around you stirs, their voices rising like a wave. A trumpet blares, sharp and piercing, signaling the start of the games. You lean forward, your heart quickening, as the first gladiators emerge from the tunnels below. Their armor glints under the sun-bronze helmets shaped like fish or lions, greaves strapped to their shins, swords and shields clutched tight. The sand crunches under their feet, each step kicking up a puff of dust. The crowd roars, a sound so loud it vibrates in your chest, like the growl of some ancient beast. You glance at the faces around you, a baker with flour-dusted hands, a noblewoman fanning herself with peacock feathers, a boy perched on his father's shoulders, eyes wide with awe. They're here for blood, yes, but also for something deep, glimpse into the human spirit, tested in the harshest of fires. Before we go further, let me pause to say, if this journey into history speaks to you, consider subscribing to the channel. It's a small gesture that helps keep these stories alive, letting us explore the past together, night after night. Now, let's step closer to the arena. The gladiators raise their weapons, saluting the emperor in his gilded box. Ave Imp, morituri te salutande, cry hail emperor. Those about to die salute you. The words hang in the air, heavy with meaning. Not every fight ended in death, but the shadow of it was ever present. The crowd chants, their voices blending into a single primal pulse. You notice the details now, the sweat beading on a gladiator's brow, the faint tremble in his grip, the way his eyes scanned the arena for his opponent. These were not just warriors. They were men and women with stories, fears, and dreams, each one fighting for something: freedom, honor, or simply another day. To understand the gladiators, we must understand the Rome that shaped them. This was an empire stretching from the misty hills of Britannia to the deserts of Egypt, a mosaic of cultures bound by Roman law and ambition. But it was also a society built on hierarchy. Senators and equestrians sat in the Colosseum's best seats, their cushions soft and their wine chilled. The poor crowded the upper tiers, squinting through the heat haze. Slaves, who made up a third of Rome's population, toiled unseen cooking, cleaning, or dying for sport. Gladiators came from this underbelly, often from conquered lands like Gaul, Thrace, or Dacia. A defeated warrior might find himself chained, shipped across seas, and sold to a Lannister trainer of gladiators. Yet, in the arena, he could become something more: a hero, a villain, a fleeting star. The games were a mirror of Rome itself, brutal, dazzling, and deeply human. They began at dawn with animal hunts, as lions and bears were pitted against spearmen. By midday, executions filled the arena, where criminals faced death by beast or blade. But the gladiators were the main event, their duels saved for the afternoon when the crowd was restless and ready. The fights were carefully staged, with referees ensuring rules were followed. A defeated gladiator could raise a finger, begging for mercy, and the crowd would decide: thumbs up for life, thumbs down for death, or so the stories say. The truth was messier, the gestures less clear, but the drama was undeniable. Let's linger here a moment, imagining the scene. The sand is warm under the afternoon sun, streaked with sweat and blood. A gladiator, perhaps a Thracian with a curved sword, circles his opponent, a heavily armored Murmillo. Their shields clash, metal screeching, and the crowd leans forward, breathless. You catch the glint of fear in the Thracian's eyes, but also defiance. He's fighting for more than survival, perhaps, for a wife waiting in a distant village, or a debt that chains him to the arena. The Murmillo lunges, his trident flashing, and the crowd erupts. This is the pulse of the Colosseum, where every swing of a sword tells a story. The gladiators were not just fighters, they were symbols. To the Romans they embodied virtues like courage and discipline, but also the fragility of life. A senator might admire their bravery while ignoring their chains. A slave in the crowd might see himself in their struggle, dreaming of his own escape. The games were a paradox, a celebration of Rome's might, built on the backs of its outcasts. And yet, for those in the arena, each fight was a chance to rewrite their fate, to seize a moment of glory in a world that offered them little else. As the sun dips lower, casting golden light across the Colosseum, the day's fights draw to a close. The crowd thins, their voices hoarse, their sandals scuffing the stone steps. You linger, watching the arena workers rake the sand smooth again, erasing the day's stories. But the echoes remain: the clash of steel, the roar of the crowd, the heartbeat of a city that thrived on spectacle. The gladiators, these men and women of iron and will, were the soul of that spectacle. Their secrets, their struggles, their triumphs, are what we'll uncover next. As we step beyond the arena's roar and into the lives they led, we'll follow them to the ludus, the training schools where they honed their skills and forged their bonds. But for now, let the Colosseum fade into the twilight, its stones cooling under the stars. Rest easy, friends, and let the whispers of history carry you forward. Chapter 2: Men of Steel and Sandust. The Colosseum fades into the twilight, its roars softening to a distant hum. Let's follow the gladiators away from the arena's blazing light. The sand still clings to their sandals, the echoes of the crowd linger in their ears, but their world extends far beyond the cheers and clashes. Picture the narrow streets of Rome at dusk, where the glow of oil lamps flickers from taverns and the air carries the scent of baked bread and cooling stone. The gladiators, these men and women who captivated a city, are not born in the arena, they are forged in its shadows. Tonight, we step into their origins, into the lives that led them to the sand, where steel met flesh and hope wrestled with despair. Come with me, friends, as we uncover who these warriors were and how they came to be. The path from the Colosseum leads us to the edges of Rome, where the city's grandeur gives way to grit. Imagine a man named Cassius, his wrists scarred from chains, trudging through a dusty street. He's a Gaul, captured in a distant forest where Roman legions crushed his tribe. His beard is matted, his eyes sharp with defiance, but his fate is no longer his own. Sold at a market near the Forum, he now belongs to a Lanista, a trainer who deals in human lives. Cassius is one of thousands, each with a story that began far from Rome's marble heart. Some were prisoners of war, like him, torn from lands as varied as Thrace, Germania, or Numidia. Others were slaves, born into servitude or sold for debts unpaid. A few, surprisingly, were free men, Romans or foreigners who chose the arena, driven by desperation, debt, or a hunger for glory. Linger on that thought as the evening air cools around us. The gladiators were not a monolith. They were a tapestry of lives woven from the empire's edges. Picture a Thracian shepherd, his hands calloused from herding goats, now gripping a sword, or a Dacian woman, once a healer in her village, now learning to wield a shield. These were people who, in another life, might have tilled fields or sung lullabies to their children. But Rome's hunger for spectacle reshaped them, turning farmers into fighters, poets into warriors. The arena was their crucible. But their stories began long before they stepped onto the sand. The journey to gladiator status often started with defeat. Rome's legions marched across continents, from the foggy hills of Britannia to the sands of Syria, leaving conquered peoples in their wake. A warrior who fought bravely might be spared death on the battlefield, only to face a new kind of war in the arena. Captives were herded onto ships, their ankles chained, and brought to Rome's slave markets. Picture the scene, a crowded plaza, near the Tiber where merchants shout prices and buyers inspect teeth and muscles like they would livestock. A man like Cassius might fetch a high price, his strength and fire promising a good show. From there, he's sent to a ludus, a gladiator training school, where his transformation begins. But not all gladiators were forced into chains. Some chose this life, a fact that might seem unthinkable as we sit here, safe in the quiet of our own time. Imagine a Roman named Titus, a baker's son with debts piling higher than his father's ovens. The empire's economy was unforgiving, taxes crushed the poor, and a single bad season could mean ruin. Titus, young and brash, signs a contract with a lanista, trading his freedom for a chance at wealth. If he survives, he might win enough coin to buy his way out of debt, maybe even earn fame that echoes through Rome's streets. The crowd's cheers, he thinks, could drown out the shame of his choice. But the arena is a cruel gamble, and Titus will learn that soon enough. Let's walk with these men, Cassius and Titus, as they leave the market behind. The ludus awaits, a walled compound on the city's outskirts, its gates heavy with iron. The air here smells of sweat, straw, and oiled leather. Inside, dozens of menans, sometimes women, train under the watchful eyes of trainers, their whips cracking like thunder. The ludus is both prison and school, a place where raw recruits are molded into warriors. Cassius, the Gaul, glares at his new home, his heart still heavy with memories of green hills and a family he may never see again. Titus, the Roman, strides in with a mix of fear and bravado, his dreams of glory flickering like a candle in the wind. The gladiators' origins shaped their lives in the ludus, but so did their diversity. Rome's empire was vast, and its arenas reflected that reach. A gladiator might be a towering German with braided hair, wielding a heavy sword, or a wiry Ethiopian, quick with a net and trident. Each brought their own skills, their own ghosts. Some spoke no Latin, their tongues thick with the sounds of home, yet they learned to fight side by side. The lanista didn't care about their pasts only. Their potential, strong arm, a quick mind, or a spark of defiance could make a star. But defiance came at a cost. Disobey, and you'd face the whip, or worse, obey, and you might live another day. Let's pause here, in the fading light of the ludus courtyard, and consider the weight of their choices or lack of them. If this journey through the lives of gladiators speaks to you, suscríbete si te gusta el video. Your support keeps these stories alive, letting us walk these ancient paths together. Now, imagine the gladiators at night, lying on straw mats in cramped cells. The ludus is quiet, save for the snores of exhausted trainees and the distant bark of dogs. Cassius stares at the ceiling, his mind drifting to a riverbank where he once fished with his brothers. Titus, nearby, clutches a small amulet, a gift from his mother, whispering prayers to Mars for strength. These men, so different in their origins, share a common thread. The arena looms over them, a shadow they cannot escape. For Cassius, it's a sentence. For Titus, a choice. But both know the sand will test them, body and soul. The gladiators' world was one of contradictions. They were despised as outcasts, yet celebrated as heroes. Their lives were cheap, yet their victories could sway emperors. Some, like the legendary Spartacus, started as gladiators before defying Rome itself. Spartacus, a Thracian sold into the ludus, led a rebellion that shook the empire, proving that even the enslaved could dream of freedom. Most gladiators, though, had smaller dreams: a warm meal, a kind word, a day without pain. Their origins, they gave them resilience, but the arena demanded more. It demanded spectacle, and they were trained to deliver it. As we linger in the ludus, let's imagine the faces around us. There's Aulus, a grizzled veteran from Hispania, his arms scarred from a dozen fights. He teaches Cassius how to hold a shield, his voice gruff but kind. There's Livia, a rare female gladiator, her eyes fierce as she sharpens her dagger. Their stories, like threads in a loom, weave together to form the tapestry of the arena. Some were born to fight, others forced, but all carried the weight of their pasts. A farmer might remember the feel of soil under his nails. A warrior, the clash of spears in a lost battle. These memories fueled their strength, but also their sorrow. The gladiators' origins were only the beginning. The ludus would shape them, grinding their bodies and spirits into something new. Picture Cassius, his muscles aching as he swings a wooden sword, sweat dripping into the dirt. Titus, nearby, stumbles under the weight of a shield, his dreams of glory tested by blisters and bruises. Their lives, once so different, now converge in this crucible of sweat and steel. The arena awaits, but first, they must survive the training, a gauntlet of discipline and pain that will either break them or make them legends. As the stars wheel overhead, the ludus grows still. The gladiators sleep, their dreams haunted by the sand and the crowd. We'll follow them next into the heart of their training, where every swing of a sword and every drop of sweat brings them closer to their fate. For now, rest easy, friends, and let the whispers of their origins carry you into the night. Chapter 3. The relentless training, the stars fade above the dews, and dawn creeps over the walls, painting the courtyard in shades of gold and gray. The air is cool, heavy with the scent of straw and leather, but it won't stay that way for long. Soon the sun will burn high, and the gladiators, men like Cassius, the defiant Gaul, and Titus, the debt-ridden Roman, will rise from their straw mats to face another day of grueling preparation. The arena's sand lies miles away, but its shadow looms here, in this walled compound where bodies are honed and spirits tested. Let's step closer, friends, into the heart of the Gladiators, where sweat and discipline forge ordinary men into warriors of legend. Picture the dust rising underfoot, the clatter of wooden swords, and the relentless rhythm of a life built for combat. The Gladiators is no mere prison. It's a crucible, a place where raw recruits are shaped into spectacles. Imagine Cassius standing in the courtyard, his broad shoulders tense, his hands gripping a wooden rudicer, training sword heavier than the real thing. The lanista, a scarred man with eyes like flint, barks orders, his voice cutting through the morning chill. Strike harder, he shouts, his whip coiled but ever present. Cassius swings, his muscles burning, the rudis slamming into a padded post. Sweat stings his eyes, but he doesn't falter. To pause is to invite punishment, a lash, a missed meal, or worse. Nearby, Titus struggles to keep pace, his city's soft hands blistered from hours of drills. The Gladiator spares no one, not the captive nor the volunteer. Training begins at first light and stretches past dusk. The day is a grind of repetition, each movement designed to carve instinct into muscle. Picture the gladiators lined up in rows, their breath clouding in the cool air as they thrust spears at straw dummies. The doctor's veteran gladiators turn to train a circle like hawks, correcting stances, shouting insults to toughen their spirits. You're not swinging a hoe, Farmer one snaps at Cassius, who grits his teeth and adjusts his grip. The drills are brutal, lunges, blocks, feints, each repeated until it's second nature. A gladiator must react without thinking, for in the arena, a moment's hesitation is a death sentence. Titus, panting, learns this the hard way when a doctor knocks him to the ground with a swift kick, his shield clattering in the dirt. But training isn't just about swords and shields. The ludus shapes the body itself. Let's linger on the diet, a detail that might surprise you. Gladiators, often called horderi barley manade, a regimen heavy in grains and legumes. Imagine a steaming bowl of barley porridge flecked with lentils and herbs, served in a clay dish. It's bland but filling, designed to build bulk and stamina. Meat was rare, reserved for special days, but vegetables like cabbage and onions were plentiful, boiled into stews that warmed the belly. Calcium-rich posca, a sour mix of water and vinegar, kept their bones strong. Cassius, used to the lean meals of his Gallic village, finds the portions generous but the taste dull. Titus, raised on Rome's spiced breads, gags at first but eats to survive. The lanista knows a well-fed gladiator fights longer, heals faster, and draws bigger crowds. The physical toll is relentless. Picture the courtyard at midday, the sun blazing overhead, turning the dust to a gritty haze. Gladiators run laps around the compound, their sandals slapping the earth, while trainers hurl weighted javelins to build endurance. Cassius, his chest heaving, feels the ache in his legs but pushes on, driven by a flicker of pride. Titus, less seasoned, stumbles, his face flushed with shame as a doctor yells, "Up, boy, or the lions will have you." Weight training follows, with stones lifted overhead or ropes pulled taut. Some exercises mimic arena moves, dodging swings, leaping over obstacles, or wrestling in pairs to build strength. Bruises bloom like flowers, and every night the gladiators collapse onto their mats, their bodies screaming but stronger than before. Let's pause here, in the heat of the ludus, as the gladiators wipe sweat from their brows. If you're enjoying this journey into their world, suscríbete si te gusta el video. Your support lets us keep unraveling these ancient stories, step by dusty step. Now, let's turn to the mental forging, just as vital as the physical. The ludus wasn't just about building muscle, it was about breaking wills and rebuilding them for the arena. Imagine Cassius, his Gallic pride still burning, resisting orders at first. A doctor singles him out, forcing him to spar until his arms trembled, teaching him that defiance has a price. Over time he learns to channel his anger into precision, his strikes growing sharper. Titus, meanwhile, grapples with fear. He dreamed of glory, but the ludus reveals the cost. Every bruise a reminder of the arena stakes. Trainers push them to face pain, to ignore the crowd's taunts, to focus only on the opponent. Meditation, crude but effective, is part of it, sitting in silence, visualizing victory, or accepting death. The ludus is a world of hierarchy. Veteran gladiators, those who've survived multiple fights, hold sway. Picture Aulus, the scarred Hispanian we met before, striding through the courtyard, his presence commanding respect. He takes Cassius under his wing, showing him how to angle a shield to deflect a blow. Survive the first fight, Aulus mutters, and you might live to see a second. Titus watches, envious, but earns only a grunt from Aulus when he tries. To join bonds form here, but so do rivalries. A Thracian named Drusus, lean and quick, eyes Titus with disdain, sensing weakness. In the ludus trust is hard won, and every glance carries weight. Discipline is the ludus's backbone. Rules are strict: no stealing food, no fighting outside training, no escape attempts. Break them, and the punishment is swift. Imagine Cassius, caught whispering plans of rebellion with another Gaul. The lanista has him tied to a post, the whip cracking across his back, each lash a warning to others. Titus watches, his stomach churning, knowing he could be next. Yet the ludus offers small mercies. A good performance in training might earn a sip of wine or a night without chains. These rewards, however small, keep hope alive, a flickering flame in a brutal world. Let's step into the evening where the ludus grows quiet. The gladiators eat their barley porridge in silence, the clink of spoons against clay the only sound. Cassius rubs his sore shoulders, his mind drifting to the arena where he'll soon face his first fight. Titus beside him clutches his amulet, whispering prayers to Mars. The ludus has changed them. Cassius's defiance is tempered, Titus's bravado humbled. They're stronger now, their bodies lean and hard, their movements sure. But the training never ends. Tomorrow they'll face new drills, new pain, and new lessons in survival. The ludus is more than a school, it's a mirror of Rome itself. Just as the empire molded its subjects with laws and legions, the ludus molds its gladiators with sweat and steel. Cassius, once a free man, learns to fight for a master he hates. Titus, once a dreamer, learns the cost of ambition. Their stories, like those of countless others, are etched in the dust of the courtyard, in the scars on their skin. The arena awaits, but first, they must master their craft: the weapons, the armor, the dance of death that will define them. As the moon rises, over the ludus casting silver light on the sleeping warriors, will leave them to their rest. Their training has prepared them for the arena, but not for its spectacle. The clash of steel, the weight of armor, the roar of a crowd that could love or condemn them. Next, we'll follow Cassius and Titus into the world of the gladiators, gear where every sword and shield tells a story of survival. For now, rest easy, friends, and let the whispers of the ludus carry you into the night. Chapter 4. Weapons and armor of fate. The moon sinks below the walls of the ludus, and the first rays of dawn touch the courtyard, where Cassius and Titus sleep fitfully on their straw mats. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and oiled leather, a reminder of the grueling training that has shaped their bodies and minds. But strength and discipline are only part of a gladiator's story. As the sun climbs higher, casting long shadows across the training grounds, the gladiators prepare to damn the tools of their trade: armor that shields and binds, weapons that define their roles in the arena's deadly dance. Let's step closer, friends, into the world of steel and bronze, where every sword, shield, and helmet carries the weight of fate. Picture the glint of metal in the morning light, the creak of leather straps, and the stories etched into the gear that makes a gladiator. In the ludus, the armory is a sacred space, a cramped room where racks of weapons gleam under flickering torchlight. Imagine Cassius standing before a doctor, his broad frame dwarfed by a towering rack of shields. He's handed a net and trident, the tools of a rivalries, a gladiator who fights like a fisherman, ensnaring foes with speed and cunning. The net is heavy, woven from coarse hemp, its edges weighted with lead to trap an opponent's blade. The trident, three-pronged and sharp, feels alien in his hands, so different from the spears of his Gallic homeland. Cassius frowns, testing its balance, while the doctor barks, "Move like the wind, Gaul, or you'll be gutted." Nearby, Titus straps on a heavy bronze helmet, its crest shaped like a fish's fin. He's a Murmillo, armed with a short sword and a large rectangular shield, built for brute strength and defense. The gear defines them, shaping their roles in the arena's brutal theater. The Ricerius and Murmillo are just two of many gladiator types, each with distinct weapons and armor crafted to thrill the crowd. Let's pause to imagine the variety. As if we're walking through the armory ourselves, the Threx, like the veteran Aulus, wields a curved sickle, its blade designed to slip past shields, paired with a small square shield for agility. His helmet, adorned with a griffin's crest, gleams under the sun, its visor shielding his eyes from dust and blows. The Hoplomachus, inspired by Greek warriors, carries a long spear and a round shield, his legs wrapped in quilted padding to protect against low strikes. The Secutor, a Ricerius's classic foe, wears a smooth, rounded helmet to avoid snags in the net, his body encased in heavy armor to withstand trident jabs. Each type is a piece of Rome's mosaic, their gear the balance of protection and spectacle, designed to make every fight a story. The armor itself is a paradox, both shield and burden. Picture Titus, his Murmillo gear weighing nearly 20 kilograms. The bronze helmet, while protective, traps heat, sweat pooling under its rim. His manica, a segmented arm guard, clanks with each swing of his gladius, a short, double-edged sword, perfect for close combat. The large scutum shield, curved to fit his body, is a wall against attacks but heavy enough to tie his arm. Greaves protect his shins, but his chest is bare save for a leather strap, leaving him vulnerable to a whelm thrust. Cassius, as a rivalries, has less armor, a shoulder guard called a gallerus, and a padded arm wrap, but this lightness is a double-edged sword. His agility is his strength, but a single misstep leaves him exposed. The crowd loves this contrast. The heavily armored Murmillo versus the nimble rivalries, a clash of brute force and cunning. Let's linger on the craftsmanship. As the sun warms the ludus courtyard, the weapons are forged by skilled smiths, their blades tempered to hold an edge through bone and sinew. Imagine the ring of a hammer on an anvil, sparks flying in a nearby forge. A gladius is polished until it gleams, its hilt wrapped in leather. For grip, the trident's prongs are filed sharp, each one a promise of pain. Shields, whether the scutum or the smaller palmula of a threx, are layered, wood covered in leather, sometimes painted with bold designs, lions, eagles, or the emblems of a Lannister school. Helmets are the most striking, often adorned with plumes or crests to catch the crowd's eye. A secutor's helmet, smooth and featureless, contrasts with the ornate visor of a threx, shaped to intimidate as much as protect. The gear isn't just for fighting, it's for show. Rome's crowds demand drama, and the Lanista knows this. Picture a retiarius like Cassius entering the arena, his net swirling like a dancer's cloak, the crowd roaring at the spectacle. His lack of armor makes him vulnerable, but it also makes him a favorite, the underdog who might outwit a towering foe. Titus, as a Murmillo, embodies Rome's ideal of strength, his heavy shield and glinting helmet evoking a legionary's discipline. The contrast fuels the arena's stories: speed against power, guile against grit. The Lannister pairs fighters carefully, ensuring each match is a clash of styles, a narrative that keeps the crowd on edge. Training with this gear is its own ordeal. Let's follow Cassius as he practices casting his net, the weights tangling until he learns to flick his wrist just right. The trident is harder, its prongs catch on shields, and he must aim for gaps in armor. Titus, meanwhile, struggles with his scutum, its weight dragging his shoulder down during long spars. The doctors push them mercilessly, staging mock battles to mimic the arena. Imagine Cassius facing Aulus the threx, whose curved seeker snakes past his net, grazing his arm. Titus spars with Drusus, the lean Thracian whose speed leaves him dizzy. These sessions are brutal, leaving bruises and egos battered, but they teach the gladiators to trust their gear, to make it an extension of themselves. If this glimpse into the gladiators' world resonates with you, subscribe si te gusta video. Your support helps us keep these stories alive, bringing the past to life with every clash of steel. The gear also carries a deeper meaning. For Cassius, the trident is a reminder of his captivity, a tool forced upon him by a world that stole his freedom. Yet, as he masters it, he finds a flicker of pride, a way to reclaim some control. Titus sees his Murmillo armor as a path to glory, each piece a step toward paying his debts, but the weight of it humbles him, a constant reminder of the arena's cost. The gear shapes their identities, marking them as rivalries, Murmillo or threx, but it also binds them to the ludus. A gladiator's helmet, once donned, hides their face, turning them into a symbol, a hero, a villain, a fleeting star in Rome's sky. Let's imagine a moment in the ludus as the day's training ends. Cassius polishes his trident, its prongs catching the fading light. Titus adjusts his helmet, wincing as it presses a bruise. Nearby, Livia the fierce gladiatrix tightens the straps of her palmula shield, her eyes sharp with determination. The armory is quiet now, the clatter of weapons replaced by the soft scrape of whetstones. Each gladiator tends to their gear with care, knowing it's both protector and prison. The Lanista watches, his gaze calculating, already planning their first fights. Cassius and Titus exchange a glance, a silent acknowledgement of the path ahead. The arena is no longer a distant dream, it's coming, and their weapons will decide their fate. The gear, like the gladiators themselves, is a product of Rome's contradictions. It's crafted with care, yet meant for destruction. It offers protection, yet invites death. As the sun sets over the ludus, casting long shadows across the courtyard, the gladiators stow their weapons and armor, their bodies aching but ready. The arena awaits, a place where their gear will be tested, where every swing and block will write their story in blood and sand. Next, we'll follow them into the shadow of death itself, where the stakes of each fight come into sharp relief. For now, rest easy, friends, and let the whispers of steel carry you into the night. Chapter 5. The Shadow of Death. As the sun dips below the walls of the ludus, the gladiators stow their weapons, the clink of metal fading into the evening's quiet. The courtyard, still warm from the day's heat, holds the scent of sweat and polished bronze, a reminder of the relentless training that binds Cassius, Titus, and their comrades to the arena's call. Their tridents, swords, and shields are extensions of their will, but they carry a heavier truth. Every piece of gear is a wager against death. Tonight, we step beyond the ludus's walls, not to the arena's roar, but into the minds and hearts of these warriors, where the specter of mortality looms large. Picture the flickering oil lamps, the whispered prayers in cramped cells, and the weight of knowing each fight could be their last. Come, friends, let's explore the shadow of death that shaped the gladiators' lives. Step by solemn step. Into ludus. Death is not a distant threat, it's a companion. Imagine Cassius, the Gaul turned Ricerius, lying on his straw mat, his trident propped against the wall. The cell is small, its air thick with the musty scent of damp stone. His eyes trace the cracks in the ceiling, but his mind is elsewhere on the arena, where a misstep could mean a blade through his heart. He's seen it already. In training, a recruit, too slow to dodge, crumpling under a doctor's blow, blood pooling in the dust. The man survived, but the lesson was clear. Cassius, once a warrior who faced death in battle, now faces it as a spectacle, his life a coin toss by the crowd's whim. He clenches his fist, his scars a map of a life he no longer controls, and wonders if his gods still watch. Titus, the Roman Murmillo, feels the shadow differently. Picture him in his cell, clutching his mother's amulet, its worn bronze cool against his palm. He chose this life, trading debt for the arena's promise of glory, but the ludus has stripped away his bravado. Training has shown him pain from shields, cuts from blunted swords, but the arena will be worse. He's heard stories from Aulus, the grizzled threats of fights where men fell, their screams drowned by cheers. Titus imagines the sand, slick with blood, and the crowd's eyes, hungry for his fall. His prayers to Mars are fervent now, less about victory and more about survival. The amulet, once a token of hope, feels like a lifeline to a world he may never return to. Death in the arena was not a certainty, but it was ever present. Let's pause to consider the odds, as if we're sitting among the gladiators, sharing their firelit silence. Not every fight ended in a corpse. Many gladiators lived to fight again, their wounds stitched by skilled physicians. But the risk, what's real? A glancing blow could sever an artery, a trident could pierce a lung, or a fever could claim a victor days later. Records from Rome suggest that 1 in 10 fights ended in death, but for novices like Cassius and Titus, the odds were worse. Their first fight, the Prima Rudies, was a brutal test, where inexperience met the crowd's bloodlust. The lanista cared little for their lives. Only their value-dead gladiators earned no coin. The gladiators faced death not just in combat, but in their daily existence. Picture the ludus at night, its silence broken by a cough or a stifled sob. Disease stalked the cramped cells, where damp walls bred fever. A wound from training, poorly cleaned, could fester, turning a strong man into a ghost. The lanista's physicians were skilled, but their tools were crude bronze scalpels, linen bandages, and herbs that burned the nose. Cassius, with his warriors' pride, scoffs at the pain of a cut, but he's seen men die from less. Titus, less heartened, flinches at every stitch, his fear of infection as sharp as his fear of the arena. Death, they learn, wears many faces. Yet, the gladiators found ways to face this shadow. Let's imagine their rituals, small acts of defiance against fate. Cassius, before sleep, whispers to his Gallic gods, tracing a symbol in the dirt, a spiral, like the rivers of his home. It's a plea for protection, a tether to a life before chains. Titus kisses his amulet, his lips moving in a prayer his mother taught him, each word a shield against despair. Others in the ludus carve their names into walls, a claim to existence. Livia the gladiatrix keeps a shard of pottery etched with a star, a reminder of a daughter she left behind. These acts, small and secret, are their armor against the void, a way to say, I am here, even if I fall. The arena itself was a stage for this dance with death. Picture Cassius, his first fight looming, standing in the ludus's armory as he straps on his galarus. The bronze shoulder guard feels cold, its weight a reminder of his vulnerability. He imagines the moment of truth, the net cast, the trident thrust. The crowds roar as his opponent, a secutor with a gleaming helmet, charges. Will he dodge in time? Will the crowd spare him if he falls? The ludus teaches him to fight, but not to face this fear. He learns that from Aulus, who shares a rare story. One night, his voice low, I faced a hoplomachus once, Aulus says, his scarred hand tracing the air. His spear grazed my ribs. I saw my death, but I kept moving. You will too. Cassius nods, his heart heavy but steadier. Titus, meanwhile, grapples with the crowd's power as a murmillo. His heavy shield offers protection, but it can't shield him from the arena's judgment. He's heard of the polis verso, the turned thumb that decides a fallen gladiator's fate. The crowd, fickle as the wind, might cheer a brave loser or condemn a coward. Titus imagines himself on his knees, his gladius lost, raising a finger to beg for mercy. Will the emperor, high in his box, spare him? The crowd, drunk on blood, demand his end. The doctors drill him to fight to the end, but they can't teach him to face that moment. He learns it from watching Livia, her eyes fierce as she spars, her every move a defiance of death's grip. If this journey through the gladiators' fears speaks to you, suscríbete si te gusta el video. Your support keeps these stories alive, letting us walk these shadowed paths together. The shadow of death shaped more than their fears, it shaped their bonds. Picture the ludus at dusk, the gladiators gathered around a fire, sharing a rare moment of rest. Cassius, usually silent, offers Titus a sip of pasca, the sour drink bonding them in its bitterness. Aulus tells tales of fights survived, his gruff voice softening as he speaks of a friend lost to Aretiarius's trident. Livia listens, her star-etched pottery clutched tight, her silence a shield for her own grief. These moments, fleeting as they are, knit them together. They know death waits, but they face it as a makeshift family. Their shared fate a thread stronger than the Lannistus chains, yet not all embraced this shadow. Some gladiators, like Drusus, the lean Thracian, turned cold, their fear hardening into cruelty. Picture Drusus in training, his sickle striking harder than needed, his eyes gleaming with a hunger for victory, no matter the cost. He mocks Titus's fear, calling him soft as a baker's dough. Cassius, watching, feels the spark of anger but holds back. Drusus's kind thrive in the arena, and he'll need to outwit them. The ludus breeds both brotherhood and rivalry, each gladiator balancing survival against the shadow that stalks them all. As night falls over the ludus, the gladiators return to their cells, the air heavy with unspoken fears. Cassius traces his spiral in the dirt, Titus clutches his amulet, and Livia holds her pottery shard. The arena looms closer now, its sand waiting to test their courage. They've trained their bodies, armed themselves with steel, but death remains their truest opponent. Next, we'll follow Cassius into the arena itself, where one man's story, Aretiarius named Marcus, will show us the courage it takes to face that shadow head-on. For now, rest easy, friends, and let the whispers of their fears carry you into the night. Chapter 6. Stories of Courage. Marcus the Retiarius. The night settles over the ludus, its silence broken only by the soft creak of straw mats and the distant howl of a dog. Cassius, Titus and their comrades lie in their cells, the shadow of death clinging to their thoughts like damp air. The tridents and swords they've polished, the armor they've strapped on, the drills they've endured all lead to the arena, where courage is tested in blood and sand. Tonight, we leave the ludus behind and step into the colosseum, following a gladiator whose story burns bright in the annals of Rome. His name is Marcus, a Retiarius like Cassius, whose fight for freedom became a whisper of legend. Picture the arena at dawn, the sand raked smooth, the crowd's murmur rising like a tide. Come friends, let's walk with Marcus, a man whose courage faced the ultimate test, and see how his story echoes in the hearts of those still training. Marcus was not born to the arena, but to a village in Numidia, where the sun baked the earth and olive trees stretched toward the sky. Imagine him as a boy, his laughter ringing through dusty fields, his hands calloused from gathering firewood. He was a hunter, skilled with a spear, until Roman legions swept through his land, their swords glinting like vipers. Captured at 17, Marcus was chained, shipped across the sea, and sold to a lanista in Rome. His eyes, dark and fierce, held the fire of his lost home, but the ludus sought to temper it. Like Cassius, he was trained as a Retiarius, given a net and trident, tools that felt like mockery to a man who once hunted lions. Yet Marcus adapted, his hunter's instincts sharpening with every drill, his net spinning like a web to trap his foes. Let's step into the Colosseum with Marcus on a spring morning in 82 CE. The air is warm, thick with the scent of dust and roasted nuts from vendors outside. The crowd, 50,000 strong, fills the stone tiers, their voices a low rumble, like thunder before a storm. Marcus stands in the tunnel, his bare feet cool against the stone, his gallerous shoulder guard heavy on his left arm. The net in his hand is coarse, its lead weights clicking softly as he shifts his grip. His trident, polished to a gleam, feels like an extension of his arm, but his heart pounds. He's fought in smaller arenas, provincial rings where crowds were sparse, but the Colosseum is different. Its scale dwarfs him, its arches looming like the jaws of a beast. He whispers a prayer to his Numidian gods, asking for speed, for strength, for one more day. The gate rises, and Marcus steps onto the sand. The crowd erupts, their cheers a wall of sound that shakes his bones. His opponent is a secutor, a towering figure in a smooth helmet, his gladius and large scutum shield built for relentless pursuit. The Retiarius and secutor are a classic pair, speed against strength, guile against power. Marcus circles, his feet light on the sand, the net swinging in a slow arc. The secutor advances, his shield raised, his steps deliberate. The crowd leans forward, sensing the drama. Marcus casts his net, aiming to entangle the secutor's sword arm, but the man dodges, his shield slamming the net aside. The trident follows, a quick jab to the secutor's thigh, but it glances off aggrieved. The crowd roars, some cheering Marcus's agility, others shouting for blood. Let's pause to feel the arena's pulse. The sand warm under Marcus's feet, the sweat stinging his eyes. Every move is a gamble. His lack of armor makes him fast, but vulnerable. The secutor lunges, his gladius flashing, and Marcus leaps back, the blade missing his chest by a hair. He hears Aulus's voice in his mind. From the ludus, move like the wind, strike like a snake. Marcus feints left, then casts his net again, this time catching the secutor's shield. He yanks, pulling the man off balance, and thrusts his trident at the exposed shoulder. The prongs bite flesh, drawing blood, and the crowd screams in delight. But the secutor recovers, ripping the net free, his gladius swinging in a deadly arc. Marcus ducks, his breath ragged, knowing one mistake could end him. The fight is more than steel and sand, it's a story of courage. Marcus fights not just for survival, but for freedom. In the Ludus, he'd heard tales of gladiators earning a rutis, a wooden sword granting release from servitude. It's a rare prize, won through victories that thrill the crowd and please the emperor. Marcus dreams of returning to Numidia, of walking his village's fields again, free under the sun. Each fight brings him closer, or so he hopes. But the Secutor is relentless, his shield a wall, his sword a constant threat. Marcus dances around him, his trident jabbing, his net a fleeting trap. The crowd chants his name, Marcus, Marcus, a sound that fuels his fire but also reminds him of their power. They could spare him, or condemn him, with a flick of their thumbs. If this tale of Marcus's courage speaks to you, suscribite. Si te gusta el video, your support keeps these stories alive, letting us walk the arena's sand together. The fight shifts, the sand now streaked with sweat and blood. Marcus's arm aches, the trident heavier with each thrust. The Secutor presses forward, his helmet gleaming like a moon, his gladiator seeking gaps in Marcus's defense. A misstep sends Marcus stumbling, his net tangling in his own feet. The Secutor strikes his sword, grazing Marcus's side, a hot line of pain. The crowd gasps, some cheering, others jeering. Marcus rolls, dodging a second blow, and scrambles to his feet. His vision blurs, but his hunter's instincts kick in. He casts his net one last time, a desperate throw that wraps the legs. With a shout, Marcus drives his trident into the man's thigh, pinning him to the sand. The Secutor drops his sword, raising a finger for mercy. The crowd falls silent, their eyes on the emperor's box. Marcus stands, chest heaving, his side bleeding but his spirit unbroken. The emperor, a distant figure in purple, consults the crowd. Voices rise, some shouting let him live, others Eugla slit his throat. Marcus watches, his fate in their hands. The emperor raises his hand, thumb up, and the crowd erupts. The Secutor will live, and Marcus has won not just the fight, but a step toward freedom. He raises his trident, blood dripping from its prongs, and the crowd chants his name again. For a moment, he's not a slave, but a hero, his courage etched into the colosseums. Sand lets linger on Marcus as he leaves the arena, his side bandaged by a physician, his net and trident carried by attendants. The tunnel is cool, a stark contrast to the arena's heat, and he feels the weight of survival. Back in the Ludus, his victory earns him a rare night of rest, a cup of wine, and whispers of his name among the recruits. Cassius, watching from the courtyard, sees Marcus's return, his own heart stirred. He's a Ritiarius too, and Marcus's fight shows him what's possible. Courage can defy death, can win the crowd, can inch toward freedom. Titus, polishing his murmelo shield, listens to the story, his fear tempered by a spark of hope. Even Livia the gladiatrix nods in respect, her starched pottery clutched tight. Marcus's story is one of many, but it burns bright. He fought not just for himself, but for the dream of a life beyond the arena. His courage, born in the Ludus's dust and tested in the Colosseum's fire, is a beacon for others. Cassius and Titus, still untested, carry his example as they face their own fights. The arena is a crucible, but it's also a stage where courage can rewrite a man's fate. As the Ludus settles into night, Marcus sleeps, his dreams of Numidia a little closer. Next we'll explore the crowd's power, the fickle tide that lifts or drowns gladiators like Marcus. For now, rest easy, friends, and let the whispers of his courage carry you into the night. Chapter 7. The Favor of the Crowd. The Ludus lies quiet under the stars, its walls holding the echoes of Marcus's victory, a tale that still hums through the cells where Cassius, Titus, and their comrades rest. Marcus, the Ritiarius whose courage turned the Colosseum's sand into a stage, showed what it means to face death and win not just survival, but the crowd's fleeting love. That roar, that chant of Marcus. Marcus carries a power greater than any sword or shield. As dawn creeps over Rome, painting the city's marble in hues of pink and gold, we leave the Ludus and return to the Colosseum, where the crowd is king. Picture the tiers packed with faces, senators in fine togas, bakers with flour-dusted hands, children perched on shoulders, all hungry for spectacle. Come friends, let's explore the gladiators' dance with the crowd, whose cheers could crown a hero or demand a grave. The Colosseum is alive, its air thick with a scent of sweat, wine, and roasted chestnuts from vendors weaving through the stands. It's 82 CE, and the games are in full swing, the morning's beast hunts giving way to the gladiators' duels. Imagine standing among the crowd, your tunic brushing against a stranger's, the stone bench warm beneath you. The arena below is a canvas of sand, streaked with the day's struggles, and the gladiators emerge like actors in a grand tragedy. The crowd's voice is a living thing, rising and falling like waves on the Tiber, now a murmur, now a roar. They're not just spectators, they're judges, their favor as vital to a gladiator's survival as his skill. For men like Marcus, Cassius, or Titus, the crowd is both ally and executioner. Let's follow Cassius the Gaulish Ritiarius as he prepares for his first fight. Picture him in the tunnel, his net coiled in one hand, his trident gleaming in the Torchlight. The roar of 50,000 voices filters through the stone, a sound that shakes his bones. He's heard Marcus's story, how the crowd's love spared his foe and lifted him to glory. But Cassius knows the crowd is fickle. One day they might chant his name, the next they might scream for his blood. The Lanista has drilled this into him. Give them a show, and they'll give you life. Cassius adjusts his gallerus, its bronze edge cool against his shoulder, and steps toward the gate. The sand awaits, and with it, the crowd's judgment. The relationship between gladiator and crowd was a delicate dance. Imagine the arena as Cassius steps out, the sun blinding, the sand hot under his bare feet. The crowd erupts, a wall of sound that drowns his thoughts. He's paired against a hoplomachus, a spear-wielding fighter with a round shield, his helmet crested with red plumes. The contrast Cassius's light net against the hoplomachus's heavy armor thrills the crowd, who love a story of underdog versus titan. Cassius casts his net, missing narrowly, and the crowd cheers his daring. He jabs with his trident, grazing the hoplomachus's arm, and the cheers grow louder. But when the hoplomachus charges, his spear nicking Cassius's side, a pocket of the crowd jeers, hungry for a fall. Every move is judged, every stumble a risk. The crowd's power went beyond cheers. They held the pollis verso, the turned thumb that could decide a defeated gladiator's fate. Let's linger on this moment. As Cassius fights, the hoplomachus catches his net, yanking it from his hands, and drives him back with a spear thrust. Cassius stumbles, his trident raised defensively, his breath ragged. The hoplomachus presses, his spear grazing Cassius's thigh, blood staining the sand. The crowd leans forward, some shouting mit to spare him, others Ugula for death. Cassius fights on, dodging a fatal blow, and lands a desperate trident strike to the hoplomachus's leg, bringing him to his knees. The defeated man raises a finger, begging mercy, and all eyes turn to the emperor's box. The crowd's roar shapes the verdict. Their voice is a tide that lifts or drowns. This power made the crowd a god of sorts. Picture the tiers, senators in the front rows, their togas bright sipping wine, merchants and artisans in the middle, shouting bets. The poor in the upper tiers, their voices hoarse but fierce. Women, too, filled the stands. From noble matrons fanning themselves with peacock feathers to street vendors with calloused hands, they all craved drama bravery, betrayal, redemption. A gladiator like Marcus, with his daring Retiarius style, became a favorite for his flair. Cassius, new to the sand, must learn this art. He fights not just his opponent, but for the crowd's heart, knowing their favor could mean a Rudy's, a chance at freedom, or at least another day alive. If this dance with the crowd speaks to you, suscríbete si te gusta el video. Your support keeps these stories alive, letting us feel the Colosseum's pulse together. The crowd's love wasn't just about survival, it was about fame. A victorious gladiator could become a star, his name whispered in taverns, his image scratched into tavern walls. Let's imagine Marcus, after his fight, walking Rome's streets under guard. A child points, shouting, "That's the rivalries." A woman tosses him a flower, her smile bold. Merchants sold trinkets, clay figurines of gladiators, their nets and swords crudely shaped. The crowd's favor brought rewards, extra food, a softer mat, or coin from wealthy patrons. But it was fleeting. A single loss, a clumsy fight, and the same crowd could turn, their cheers becoming jeers. Their love a memory. Cassius feels this as he fights. His trident finds its mark again, pinning the hoplomachus's shield. The crowd roars, and he risks a glance at the stands, seeing faces alight with awe. He's no longer just a Gaul, a slave, he's a story, a spark in Rome's heart. But the hoplomachus recovers, his spear grazing Cassius's arm, and the crowd's mood shifts, some booing, his falter. Titus, watching from the Ludus's viewing platform, clenches his murmelo shield, knowing his own fight looms. He's seen how the crowd lifts Marcus, how it tests Cassius, and he fears its judgment. Even Livia the gladiatrix feels its weight, her own fights drawing cheers but also whispers of scandal. For women in the arena were both admired and mocked. The crowd's favor shaped the gladiators' lives beyond the sand. Picture a victorious Cassius, spared by the emperor's thumb, returning to the loot. His wound is stitched, his name now known. Aulus, the veteran Threx, slaps his shoulder, a rare grin breaking his scarred face. "They love you today, Gaul," he says, "keep them loving you." But Drusus, the cruel Thracian, sneers, envious of the attention. The crowd's favor breeds rivalry, for only a few can be stars. Marcus, now a veteran of several fights, carries himself taller, his eyes bright with a dream of a Rudy's, yet he knows one bad fight could erase it all. The crowd's love turning to scorn. The crowd was Rome itself, a mirror of its desires and contradictions. They cheered for courage but craved blood, admired skill but mocked weakness. Gladiators were their heroes and their victims, exalted one moment, expendable the next. Cassius, catching his breath as the hoplomachus is led away, feels this truth. The crowd chants his name, but he knows it's a fragile gift. Titus, preparing for his own fight, whispers to his amulet, praying for the crowd's mercy. Livia, sharpening her dagger, steels herself against their judgment, her star-etched pottery a reminder of why she fights. As the sun sets over the Colosseum, the crowd thins, their voices fading into the evening's hum. Cassius, bandaged and weary, returns to the ludus, his first fight a victory but a lesson in the crowd's power. Marcus's story, and now his own, show the gladiator's truth. Courage wins battles, but the crowd writes their fate. Next we'll step into the arena with a different figure, a woman, a gladiatrix, whose presence defied Rome's rules and captivated its heart. For now, rest easy, friends, and let the whispers of the crowd carry you into the night. Chapter 8. Women in the arena. As the Colosseum's cheers fade into the Roman dusk, Cassius trudges back to the ludus, his victory over the hoplomachus still ringing in his ears. The crowd's fleeting love a fragile shield against the weight of his chains. The city settles into night, its marble glowing under moonlight, the Tiber's gentle ripple mingling with the hum of taverns. But the arena's story doesn't end with men like Cassius, Titus, or Marcus. There's another figure, a presence, a spark in Rome's spectacle, defying the empire's rules and captivating its heart. Her name is Livia, the gladiatrix, whose starched pottery we've glimpsed, a token of a daughter left behind. Tonight, we follow her into the arena, where women fought not just opponents, but the expectations of a world that sought to bind them. Picture the sand under her feet, the crowd's murmur tinged with awe and scorn. Come friends, let's uncover the unbelievable story of women in the arena. Step by defiant step, Livia's journey began far from Rome, in a Dacian village nestled among forested hills. Imagine her as a young woman, her hands skilled with herbs, tending wounds from tribal skirmishes. She was no warrior, but her spirit was fierce, her eyes bright with a healer's compassion. When Roman legions conquered her land, they saw strength in her, not as a healer but as a spectacle. Sold to a lanista with an eye for profit, Livia was brought to Rome, her wrists bound, her heart heavy with the memory of her daughter's laughter. In the Lanus, she was trained as a gladiatrix, a rare and shocking role. Women in the arena were a novelty, their fights a blend of scandal and fascination, drawing crowds eager for something new. The ludus was no kinder to women than to men. Picture Livia in the courtyard, her dark hair tied back, her hands gripping a small palmular shield and a short gladius. The doctors push her harder, knowing her fights will face harsher judgment. Move faster, woman, one barks, his whip snapping the air. Livia's muscles ache, her arms bruised from sparring, but she learns to wield her blade with precision, her small shield a dance of defense. Her armor is lighter than a murmillo's, a leather tunic and greaves, her helmet, simple but crested with a single feather. The lanista knows her value. Gladiatrices draw crowds, their rarity a lure, but he also knows the risk. A woman's defeat could spark outrage, her victory could stir unrest. Let's step into the Colosseum with Livia, on a summer afternoon. In 82 CE the air is heavy, thick with the scent of dust and sweat. The crowds roar a living pulse. Gladiatrices fought less often than men, their bouts a special feature, billed as both exotic and forbidden. Livia steps onto the sand, her sandals sinking slightly, her gladius gleaming in the sun. Her opponent is another gladiatrix, named Vara, armed like a threx with a curved sicca and a small shield. The crowd buzzes, some cheering for the thrill, others muttering disapproval. Women in the arena challenge Rome's order, where women are meant to be wives or mothers, not warriors. Yet Livia stands tall, her eyes fierce, the star-etched pottery tucked into her belt a silent vow to survive. The fight begins, a clash of speed and steel. Picture Livia circling Vara, her palmula raised, her gladius darting like a wasp. Vara's sicca slashes, its curved blade seeking gaps in Livia's defense, but Livia parries, her movements honed in the loot. The crowd leans forward, their voices a mix of awe and jeers. Strike, Dacian, some shout while others hiss. Back to the hearth. Livia ignores them, her focus sharp. She feints left, then lunges, her gladius grazing Vara's arm, drawing a thin line of blood. The crowd roars, thrilled by the spectacle. But Livia feels the weight of their gaze. Her fight is not just for survival, but for respect in a world that denies it. The challenges for gladiatrices were unique. Let's linger on this. As the sun beats down on the arena, women fought with the same risks as men: death, injury, the crowd's fickle judgment, but their presence was a rebellion. Roman society prized women for domesticity, yet gladiators like Livia and Vara defied this, their strength a spectacle that both fascinated and unsettled. Some were slaves, like Livia, forced into the arena. Others were free women, driven by debt or defiance, seeking fame where men held sway. Their fights were carefully staged, often against other women to avoid accusations of impropriety. But the danger was real. A sicca could cut as deeply, a shield could bruise as fiercely, whether wielded by man or woman. If this story of Livia's defiance speaks to you, suscríbete si te gusta el video. Your support keeps these tales alive, letting us honor the courage of those who fought against the odds. Livia's fight continues, the sand now streaked with sweat and blood. Vara is relentless, her sicca slashing in arcs, forcing Livia to dance back, her shield taking blow after blow. The crowd's mood shifts, some chanting Livia, others cheering Vara's aggression. Livia's arm burns, her breath short, but her daughter's face flashes in her mind, a girl with her eyes, waiting in a distant village. She ducks a wild swing, then thrusts her gladius, catching Vara's thigh. Vara stumbles, her shields dropping, and Livia presses forward, her blade at Vara's throat. The Thracian raises a finger, pleading for mercy, and the crowd falls silent, their power absolute. Livia steps back, her chest heaving, as the Emperor consults the stands. The verdict comes thumbs up and Vara lives. The crowd's cheers, washing over Livia like a tide. The victory is bittersweet. Livia leaves the arena, her wounds bandaged, her name a whisper among the crowd. Back in the ludus, she feels the eyes of Cassius and Titus, who watched her fight from the training platform. Cassius, the Retiarius, nods in respect, his own fight fresh in his mind. Titus, still awaiting his debut, grips his Murmelo shield tighter, inspired but daunted. Even Alos, the grizzled Threx, offers a rare grunt of approval, but Drus, the cruel Thracian, sneers, his disdain for a woman's victory sharp. Livia ignores him, her hand brushing the pottery shard in her belt, her heart fixed on her daughter. The crowd's favor has given her life, but not freedom, not yet. Gladiatresses like Livia were rare, but their impact was profound, historical. Whispers tell of women fighting in the arena as early as Nero's reign. Their bouts a spectacle that drew emperors and poets. Some, like the famed Achillea, earned inscriptions on stone, their names carved beside men's. Others, like Livia, fought in obscurity, their stories lost but for the echoes we imagine. They faced not just opponents, but a society that saw their strength as unnatural. Yet they fought their courage a challenge to Rome's rigid norms. Livia's victories, though few, made her a symbol, a woman who claimed the arena's sand as her own, defying a world that sought to cage her. The crowd's reaction to gladiatrices was a mirror of Rome's contradictions. Picture the stands, noble women inspired, cheer loudly while senators mutter about propriety. The poor, packed in the upper tiers, shout for Livia's daring, seeing their own struggles in her fight. Her victories sparked debates in taverns, graffiti, on walls, praise and scorn in equal measure. For Livia, the crowd's love is a lifeline, but also a chain. Each fight risks more than her life, it risks her dignity, her story twisted by those who see her as a curiosity. Yet she fights, her gladius a voice, her shield a defiance. As night falls over the ludus, Livia sits by a fire, her pottery shard glinting in the flames. Cassius and Titus, nearby, share her silence, their own fights shaping their bond with her. Marcus, the Retiarius whose courage lit their path, watches to his eyes kind. The arena has tested them all, but Livia's fight carries a different weight, a woman's courage in a man's world. Her story, like Marcus's, fuels their dreams of freedom, of a life beyond the sand. Next, we'll explore the rewards of victory, the fleeting prizes that kept gladiators like Livia fighting. For now, rest easy, friends, and let the whispers of her defiance carry you into the night. Chapter 9. The Price of Victory. The firelight fades in the ludus, its embers casting a soft glow on Livia's face as she clutches her star-etched pottery, her thoughts drifting to a daughter far from Rome's clamor. Nearby, Cassius and Titus rest, their bodies weary from training, their minds heavy with the arena's trials. Livia's fight, a gladiatrix defying the colosseum's expectations, lingers like a spark in the night, her victory a testament to courage but also a reminder of the arena's cost. For every gladiator, man or woman, victory is more than survival. It's a step toward rewards that tantalize, yet bind them tighter to the sand. Tonight, we follow the gladiators beyond the cheers, into the fleeting prizes of their triumphs: freedom, coin, or fleeting fame, and the price they pay to claim them. Picture the ludus at dawn, the air sharp with the scent of straw and hope. Come, friends, let's explore the price of victory, step by one step. Victory in the arena was a rare and precious thing, a moment when the crowd's roar crowned a gladiator as more than a slave or outcast. Imagine Cassius, the Retiarius, returning from his fight against the Hoplomachus, his side stitched, his net and trident stowed. The lanista greets him with a rare nod, a cup of wine pressed into his hands, a small reward, but a treasure in the ludus's harsh world. The wine is sour, but it warms Cassius's chest, a brief escape from the grind of training. Titus, still awaiting his first fight, watches with envy, his Mamillo shield heavy in his hands. He dreams of such rewards, of coin to clear his debts, of Arudius, the wooden sword of freedom that Marcus, the Numidian Retiarius, chases with every fight. But these prizes come at a cost, one measured in blood, sweat, and the crowd's fickle love. The most coveted reward was the Rudis, a symbol of release from the arena's chains. Let's linger on this dream, as if we're sitting with the gladiators in the ludus's dim light. The Rudis was rare, granted only to those whose victories thrilled the crowd and pleased the emperor. Picture Marcus, his name now whispered in Rome's taverns after his Colosseum triumph. He's won 3 fights, each one inching him closer to freedom. The lanista dangles the Rudis like a carrot, promising it after one more fight. But each victory raises the stakes. Better opponents, bigger crowds, higher risks. Marcus knows that Rudy's is no guarantee. Many gladiators fought for years, only to die before claiming it. Yet the dream fuels him, his hunter's heart fixed on Numidia's fields, where he might walk free under the sun. Coin was another prize, a more immediate reward. Imagine Livia, her gladiatrix victory, earning her a small purse of sesterces, slipped to her by a wealthy patron impressed by her defiance. The coins, stamped with the emperor's face, clink in her hand, a rare taste of power. She hides them in her cell, tucked beneath her mat, dreaming of buying passage for her daughter to join her. But the lanista takes a cut, and the ludices costs food, bandages, training it away at her earnings. Cassius, too, earns coin for his win, enough for a week of extra bread or a night without chains. Titus, watching, imagines coin as his path out of debt, but he's yet to face the sand. The arena's rewards are generous, but they bind gladiators to the lanista's will. Each coin a reminder of their servitude. Fame, though fleeting, was a reward that burned bright. Pictured the Colosseum after Livia's fight, the crowd chanting, Livia as she leaves the sand, her gladius raised. In the days that follow, her name spreads graffiti on walls, whispers in markets. A baker offers her a warm loaf, a child tosses her a flower. For a moment, she's not a Dacian slave, but a star, her courage etched into Rome's heart. Marcus too knows this fame, his Rosarius flair making him a favorite. Cassius feels its first stirrings, his victory earning nods from veterans like Aulus. But fame is a double-edged sword. The crowd's love demands more fights, more risks, and a single loss can turn cheers to gears. Titus, still untested, fears this most. Will the crowd lift him, or crush him? If this glimpse into the gladiator's reward speaks to you, suscribite. Si te gusta el video. Your support keeps these stories alive, letting us chase the dreams of the arena together. The price of these rewards was steep. Let's follow Cassius back to the ludus, his body aching, his wounds a map of his victory. Each fight leaves scars physical and unseen. The lanista pushes him harder now, pairing him against tougher foes to please the crowd. A victory earns wine, but also envy. Drusus, the cruel Thracian, eyes Cassius with malice, his own fame dimmed. Livia, too, pays a price. Her gladiatrix status draws patrons who offer coin, but also leers their interest, a reminder of her vulnerability. She fights for her daughter, but each victory risks her life, her starched pottery a fragile anchor. Marcus, closest to the Rudies, feels the weight most keenly. One misstep, and his dream of Numidia fades. The arena's rewards came with strings. Picture Titus, finally stepping onto the sand for his first fight as a Mermelo. His opponent is a Threx, lean and quick, his seeker a flashing threat. Titus's heavy shield saves him, blocking blows, but his arm trembles under the weight. He lands a strike, his gladius cutting the Threx's arm, and the crowd roars. He wins the emperor's thumb, sparing his foe, and the lanista tosses him a few sesterces, but as he leaves the arena, his chest heaving. He sees the cost: more fights, more wounds, more chances to lose the crowd's favor. The coin is his, but so is the chain, tying him to the ludus until his debts are paid or his life is spent. Freedom, the ultimate prize, was the rarest. Let's imagine a moment in the ludus as Marcus shares a story by the fire. He speaks of a gladiator named Crixus, a Gaul who won his Rudies after 10 victories, his name carved into Rome's memory. Crixus walked free, but most don't. Many die. Others are kept fighting to milk their fame. Marcus's eyes burn as he speaks, his own Rudies a distant hope. Cassius listens, his own victory fresh, wondering if freedom is worth the cost. Livia, clutching her pottery, dreams of freedom not for herself, but for her daughter, a hope that keeps her fighting. Titus, new to victory, feels the weight of his choice. The arena's rewards are sweet, but they demand his soul. The ludus itself reflects this paradox. Picture the gladiators at dawn, training under the doctor's watchful eyes. A victory earns a softer mat, a rare piece of meat, but also harder drills, fiercer opponents. Aulus, the veteran Threx, warns Titus, win, and they'll love you. Win too much, and they'll want you broken. The lanista profits most, his coffers filled by the crowd's hunger, while the gladiators risk all. Even fame, the brightest reward, fades. Graffiti washes away, names are forgotten unless carved in stone. Livia's victories, groundbreaking for a woman, are whispered but rarely recorded, her courage a fleeting spark. As the sun rises over the ludus, the gladiators prepare for another day. Their victory is a fragile shield against the arena's grind. Cassius polishes his trident, his coin hidden, his heart set on survival. Titus, now blooded, feels the crowd's love but fears its loss. Livia, her wounds bandaged, holds her daughter's memory close, her fights a vow to endure. Marcus, closest to freedom, trains with grim focus, knowing each victory brings him nearer, roar closer to death. The arena's rewards are theirs, but so is its price, a truth that binds them tighter than any chain. Next we'll explore the rivalries and alliances that simmer in the ludus, shaping their path to the sand. For now, rest easy, friends, and let the whispers of their victories carry you into the morning. Chapter 10. Traitors and Allies. The sun sets over the ludus, its fading light casting long shadows across the courtyard where Cassius, Titus, Livia and Marcus rest, their victories in the arena a fragile armor against the grind of their lives. The air is heavy with the scent of dust and oiled leather, but beneath the surface of their hard-won triumphs lies a current of tension. Rivalries that simmer like the Roman sun and alliances woven in the quiet moments of the night. The ludus is more than a place of sweat and steel. It's a crucible of loyalty and betrayal, where every gladiator fights not just for the arena, but for a place among their peers. Picture the clatter of wooden swords, the murmur of whispered plans, and the sharp glance of a rival. Come friends, let's explore the traitors and allies that shape the gladiators' world, step by cautious step, as their story unfolds. The ludus is a microcosm of Rome, where survival hinges on trust, as much as suspicion. Imagine Cassius, the Gaulish retiarius, in the courtyard, practicing his net under the watchful eye of Aulus, the scarred ex-Aulus. His face, a map of past battles, has taken Cassius under his wing, teaching him to read an opponent's intent. Watch the eyes, not the blade, he grumbles, adjusting Cassius's stance. This alliance, born of Aulus's experience and Cassius's grit, is a refuge in the ludus's harsh world. But not all bonds are so solid. Drusus, the cold-eyed Thracian, watches from the sidelines, his envy of Cassius's Colosseum victory burning like a coal. Drusus, a Threx like Aulus, sees Cassius as a threat to his own fame, a spark that could ignite betrayal. Alliances in the ludus are fragile, forged in moments of shared struggle. Picture Titus, the Myrmillo-Roman, sharing a bowl of barley porridge with Livia after a grueling day. Titus, fresh from his first victory, finds comfort in Livia's quiet strength. She, clutching her star-rich pottery, speaks of her Dacian village, her voice soft but steady. Fight for something bigger than yourself, she tells him, her eyes gleaming with the memory of her daughter. This connection bolsters them, but it also exposes them. In the ludus, trust is a gamble. A friend today could be a foe tomorrow, forced to face each other in the arena by the lanista's whim. Rivalries, though, cut deeper. Imagine Drusus in the mess hall, his hands gripping a bowl as he hears whispers of Cassius's victory. Drusus, whose seeker has tasted blood in several fights, feels his star fading. During a training session, he provokes Cassius, knocking his net to the ground with a swipe of his wooden sword. Think you're Marcus, Gaul, he sneers, his voice venomous. Cassius, his Gallic pride flaring, holds back, recalling Aulus's advice, save your fire for the arena. But the tension grows, a spark that could flare into something more dangerous. In or out of the ludus. The lanista stokes these rivalries, knowing drama fills seats. Picture an afternoon in the courtyard where the lanista pairs Titus against Drusus in a mock fight. Titus, with his heavy Myrmillo shield, struggles to match Drusus's swift seeker, which slices the air with cruel precision. Drusus doesn't hold back, his wooden sword striking Titus's arm with unnecessary force, leaving a purple bruise. The doctor watches, unmoved, for their rivalry promises a spectacle in the arena. Titus, panting, feels the sting of humiliation, but also a flicker of resolve. He won't let Drusus break him. Alliances come with their own risks. Imagine Livia and Marcus, the Numidian retiarius, sharing a rare moment by the ludus's fire. Marcus, his dream of a Rudi's closer with each fight, confides in Livia, speaking of his sunlit village in Numidia. Livia, in turn, shares her hope for her daughter, her voice trembling with love and loss. This alliance, born of shared struggles, sustains them, but it also paints a target. Drusus, ever watchful, notices their closeness and whispers to the lanista that Marcus might be plotting escape, a lie spun from envy. The lanista, suspicious, punishes Marcus with a day under the sun, no water, his body collapsing in the dust. Livia, powerless, clutches her pottery, knowing her bond with Marcus has marked her. If this tale of loyalty and betrayal stirs you, subscribe if you like the video. Your support keeps these stories alive, letting us navigate the ludus's shadows together. Betrayals aren't always overt. Picture a night in the ludus where the gladiators gather for a rare feast after a day of victories. The lanista offers roasted meat, a luxury, but the portions are uneven. Drusus, with his sly charm, persuades a guard to slip him an extra share, stolen from Titus's ration. Titus, hungry and furious, confronts Drusus, but the Thracian laughs, his words cutting. Eat your pride, baker. The betrayal is small but stings, sowing distrust. Cassius, watching, learns a lesson in the ludus. Even a friend might turn for a scrap of meat, yet alliances offer strength. Imagine Aulus and Cassius under the moonlight, training in the courtyard. Aulus, with his veteran's wisdom, shows Cassius how to flick his net to snag an opponent's shield. We're brothers in the arena, Aulus says, his voice gruff but warm. This bond, rooted in mutual respect, helps Cassius face Drusus's envy. Likewise, Livia and Titus share a quiet alliance, exchanging glances of support during drills. When Titus stumbles under his shield's weight, Livia whispers, "Rise, Roman, your debt doesn't define you." These words, simple but powerful, push him forward. The ludus is a place where betrayals and alliances collide, shaping gladiators as much as their training. Picture Marcus, recovering from his punishment, his body weak but his spirit unbroken. He shares a sip of Posca with Livia, whispering plans to survive their next fights. But Drusus, always lurking, overhears his mind scheming to use their bond against them. Cassius, caught between loyalty to Aulus and rivalry with Drusus, learns to navigate this treacherous world, his Gallic heart hardening but not breaking. Titus, still new to this game, feels the strain. His amulet, a reminder to trust but cautiously. The Lanista exploits these dynamics, pairing rivals in the arena to maximize drama. Imagine a planned fight where Cassius faces Drusus Derisiarius against the Threx. Their rivalry, fueled by Drusus's envy, promises a spectacle to pack the Colosseum. Livia and Titus, watching from the ludus, know their own loyalties will soon be tested. Marcus, with his dream of freedom, looks on with weary eyes, aware that each alliance brings him closer to his Rudies but each betrayal risks his life. The ludus is a chessboard, and the gladiators, its pieces, must play with cunning to survive. As the stars shine over the ludus, the gladiators rest. Their alliance is a shield, their rivalries a blade. Cassius, Titus, Livia, and Marcus know the arena awaits, where the betrayals and alliances of the ludus will be tested under the crowd's gaze. Next, we'll follow Livia, the brave gladiatrix, whose story in the arena carries a tragic weight, an echo of her fight for her daughter. For now, rest easy, friends, and let the whispers of loyalty and betrayal carry you into the night.